Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. On Friday, I said I would not be surprised if over the weekend Elon came out and denied that Wall Street Journal report about SpaceX doing a cap raise. And on Saturday, he did just that, saying there's been a lot of press claiming SpaceX is raising money at an $800 billion valuation, which is not accurate. But as Elon likes to do, he still left things open to interpretation. So is it that SpaceX is not raising money at all, or they're just not raising money at an $800 billion valuation? Elon has talked about wanting to do something to allow Tesla shareholders to invest in SpaceX, so we'll keep an eye on this as, of course, Tesla investors would want to invest in SpaceX sooner rather than later. Elon has been talking about some new ventures that Tesla is likely to play a meaningful role in over the past few weeks. At first, it could have been written off as an idyllic outcome of where things could go, but after this weekend, it's become quite clear this is not a moonshot idea, it's precisely where Elon is steering his ships, which is part of why Elon explained this convergence between Tesla, xAI, and SpaceX. In short, Elon's arguing that AI data centers on Earth are hitting their power limits, and space offers a cheaper, faster way to scale AI to massive degrees by using solar power in orbit and eventually manufacturing on the moon. So parts of his vision here has the technology already in development now with Starlink that would of course need some upgrades, but other parts are clearly yet to be developed. Cathie Wood and ARK Invest put out a model about SpaceX's valuation, and they said theirs was before solar-powered data centers in space. ARK Invest's model for SpaceX yields an expected enterprise value in 2030 of around $2.5 trillion, generating a roughly 38% compound annual rate of return from its last funding round at $350 billion in December 2024. Elon replied to that saying a major additional factor should be considered: satellites with localized AI compute where just the results are beamed back from low latency, sun-synchronous orbit will be the lowest cost way to generate AI bit streams in under 3 years. So these satellites with localized AI compute on board, could they include Tesla's AI 7 or AI 8 in the future? Of course, they would need some level of radiation hardening so they can operate without failure in space.
So solar power is necessarily the future. And I think there's going to be a lot of solar-powered AI satellites. And I think Tesla's going to play a role in that.
So don't take it from me, Elon himself has said that Tesla is going to play a role in all of this. Elon continued, "This will be by far the fastest way to scale within 4 years because easy sources of electrical power are already hard to find on Earth. 1 megaton per year of satellites with 100 kilowatts per satellite yields 100 gigawatts of AI added per year with no operating or maintenance cost, connecting via high bandwidth lasers to the Starlink constellation." The easiest way to think about this is data centers will be moved from the Earth and into space. Just for easy context for now, Colossus 2, which is set to be one of the biggest data centers in the world, was going to be just over 1 gigawatt. Elon is now talking about adding 100 gigawatts of AI per year. But don't sleep on the following line: with no operating or maintenance cost. So I did a bit of digging because we know how Elon can get with his visions, but I found this white paper from StarCloud titled "Why We Should Train AI in Space." In the white paper, there was a table comparing a single 40 megawatt cluster operated for 10 years in space versus on land. On the left, we have on Earth. On the right, we have in space. You can pause the screen if you want to go line by line looking at all of the differences, but I'll just jump to the conclusion. The cost over 10 years for on land would be roughly $167 million, and the comparative cost in space would be $8.2 million. So we'll call that about 5% of the cost to operate it in space. Said another way, it's roughly 95% cheaper. And when Elon says these AI bit streams, just think of the output that these AI models will give you. And guess what will be required to make all of this possible? Incredibly efficient inference, which is what Tesla is likely leading the world in. Further, perhaps Tesla will play a role when it comes to the solar integration of these AI satellites. And then lastly, Elon puts out this moonshot idea, but it's literal. So then in that case, is it not actually a moonshot, but building these satellite factories on the moon? And then things just get crazy. He says that scales to over 100 terawatts per year of AI. So over the next few years, we will have endless things to talk about, and everything here seems to be after we get the Optimus production at scale. These AI-powered satellites feel like something that we'll talk about more in 2027 through 2029, somewhere in that range. But if you've been starting to think that Tesla's future is all just FSD or Optimus, well, I think it's time to think again. And then Elon added exawatts or you're not really trying, which, knowing Elon, I think should be interpreted as somewhat of a tongue-in-cheek comment. All you need to know, 1 exawatt is equivalent to 1 billion with a B gigawatts. Said another way, 1 exawatt is 1 billion times bigger than 1 gigawatt. So look, I know this type of talk just causes people to roll their eyes because they want tangible, short-term things that make sense and are easier to comprehend. But all I will say is this is what makes Elon Elon. It's the reason he's done things that people have called impossible time and time again. And it's the reason Tesla has arguably more upside than any other public or private company on earth. You just can't teach this kind of thinking, and when you compare it to legacy automakers spending their days celebrating the reduction of CAFE regulations, you begin to see how short-sighted and frankly how stupid it is to compare Tesla to companies of that ilk. And yes, obviously these paradigm-altering missions that Elon has Tesla on take years to play out, which is where people get impatient. But as I always like to say, if you were to just check out for 5-year increments at a time and then at one moment look back over a 5-year period and see everything that Tesla accomplished, I think most people would be quite impressed. So for now, just know Elon has massive plans that Tesla will play a role in, and the synergies were explained well in a post that Elon shared. Tesla Economics said, I think a lot of people are still sleeping on how massive the synergies are between SpaceX, Starlink, Tesla Solar, Megapacks, and data centers in space. They're about to build the entire energy, data, connectivity, AI backbone for the future. And Elon reposted this one. And for me, the scale is exciting, but it's the cost savings that's the most profound, if that's indeed how it all plays out. A big portion of Tesla's capex is for AI compute and all of the energy and cooling, utility costs, and everything else paired with that. So when you remove a huge portion of those costs, the overall company margins get a massive tailwind that otherwise would not be possible. And then training and operating Optimus and Grok and FSD becomes literally orders of magnitudes cheaper. So again, this will take years to play out, and you should not expect it to be added to Tesla's valuation today, given Wall Street prices things in only about 1 year out. But as a long-term investor, the upside just keeps getting pushed higher, which is already hard to comprehend if Tesla can execute. On Truth Social, Trump said there must be only one rulebook if we're going to continue to lead in AI. We're beating all countries at this point in the race, but that won't last long if we're going to have all 50 states involved in their own rules and the approval process. I will be doing a one rule executive order this week. You can't expect a company to get 50 approvals for every time they want to do something that will never work. This is precisely the argument we've been making of why we need a federal framework for autonomous vehicles. But the big question, what will be covered in this executive order? The idea here is to create a uniform national policy framework that would preempt, aka override, state laws on AI development. There's been some chatter that federal agencies like the FCC and the FTC would evaluate and then push back against certain state rules, and they would potentially tie any federal funding to the states actually complying with the lighter or easier federal standards. So this executive order is not going to outright prohibit states from having their own AI laws. It's just going to make it harder for them to enforce them if they happen to conflict with this national policy framework. The problem with executive orders is they're not really permanent. And as you see here, the exercise of them is readily subject to modification or reversal by a successor president. So, of course, directionally, this would be great for Tesla, making it easier to deploy things like unsupervised and Optimus. But for me, it's too early to say how bullish it is because we don't have any of the detail. And at some point, I would expect some pushback to this from certain states from a legal standpoint. But if this executive order were to have some wording in it about the federal framework for autonomous vehicles, that would of course be incredibly bullish for Tesla. Either way, we should learn a lot more in the next week or two. This 4-second video was shared and has been going viral of Optimus at Tesla's Future of Autonomy Visualized event in Miami over the weekend. So far, this has not been called out as AI, and it looks like the teleoperator was removing his headset and then Optimus fell backwards. It makes sense why this is getting so much attention. All of the bears are pointing and laughing, saying Tesla's robots aren't autonomous. But look, those of us in the know are fully aware most of the time in the public, Optimus is being teleoperated. One of, if not the only time, Elon has said a demo was AI was not teleoperated was at the Tron premiere. So it's an unfortunate outcome, but honestly, this is completely irrelevant for me personally. I think it's purely noise. Tesla is now allowing iOS users in 11 different countries to download the Robotaxi app. It's available in Japan, Thailand, Hong Kong, South Korea, Australia, Taiwan, Macau, New Zealand, Mexico, the US, and Canada. Of course, right now, a lot of people are saying, see, Tesla's going to scale Robotaxi globally faster than everyone was expecting. The problem with that statement is who is everyone and what were they expecting? What I'm saying is that just because the Robotaxi app is available for download does not mean the service will be available in these areas anytime in the next 3 months. And yes, Tesla does have reasons to make the app downloadable before launching in those areas. People start talking about it, Tesla fans will download the app and sign up for updates. Tesla can get an early read on how much interest there is in each different region. It can plan for how many people it will invite when it does launch the service in these different regions. And to some degree, I think the data of who actually downloads the app and signs up is going to inform Tesla about where they want to roll out the pilots next. And to some degree, I'm sure it's mind games for the EU regulators as they'll see the news that Tesla's rolling out a Robotaxi app in all of these different countries and maybe start to feel the pressure a little more. And as we've talked about the past few weeks, the global momentum and awareness for FSD has never been higher than it is right now. Meaning it's a great, easy way for Tesla to have one of its apps downloaded on thousands of phones around the world. And to the Android users out there that are upset, I really do completely understand that. It feels like Tesla's prioritizing iOS downloads in regions the app can't be used, yet they're neglecting Android in the cities where these people could actually use the service. So from that angle, it's bad. But remember, Tesla's wait times are already too long, so adding Android access would only make that worse. And enabling an app to be downloaded that already exists is way easier than creating the entire Android app and testing for bugs, etc. So I hear your frustrations, but Tesla will make it available when they have greater robotaxis in the operating fleets. And we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, Tesla does have the Android app in the works. And I've said all along, 2026 is likely to be the year when the floodgates truly open. But for me right now, I'm still focused on the US. It's where Tesla has the most FSD data by far. And there are plenty of other cities that have lax autonomous vehicle rules that Tesla should be taking advantage of. Tesla has called out launching in Miami, Houston, Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Dallas, and Elon said they'd be in 8 to 10 cities by the end of this year. Well, that's about 23 days away, and we're only in 2 cities right now. So either we're about to have plenty of fireworks in the next 3+ weeks, or that goal is not going to be hit. So for me, I do not see Tesla launching a robotaxi service globally until it shows us it can scale in the US. process. The biggest completed battery project on Australia's main grid and one of the biggest projects in the country has been officially opened. The Melbourne Renewable Energy Hub is a 1,600 megawatt hour project, which is actually 3 different battery projects located in the same area for a total of a $1.2 billion facility. And this project included the installation of 444 Tesla Megapacks, which is roughly $500 million in revenue for Tesla. Not that they receive it all at once right now, but certainly a portion as this project is now online. This clip of FSD from Uncle Tesla was awesome for many reasons. In one video, we have where we've been, where we were, and now where we are, all in one video with some pretty incredible decision making. Truly handled perfectly. The first second the car had visibility, it took the opportunity. As expected, TG5, a national news outlet in Rome, did end up covering these FSD demo drives in the region. It looks like from an average daily viewer perspective, TG5 can do north of 2.5 million views. They didn't say anything of note in the segment that you guys won't already know, but definitely a lot more exposure. According to the Nikkei, Tesla plans to expand its charging network in Japan 40% by 2027, broadening coverage outside major metropolitan areas to propel growth in a market that has seen strong sales. Right now, Tesla has 695 charging posts across 138 locations in Japan, and will install post 700 as early as this year. But by 2027, it plans to have more than 1,000 posts installed at roughly 190 locations. Tesla sold roughly 10,090 vehicles in Japan in January through November this year, which was a rough doubling year over year. It's the first time in a year that Tesla has sold more than 10,000 units in Japan. Energy Storage News put out a report, and they said a consultant we spoke to, speaking anonymously, said that domestic battery cell manufacturing appears to be ramping up to the point that Chinese batteries might not be needed. EV demand is going to decrease because of the removal of the tax credit, and the battery manufacturing capacity from those factories is now being repurposed to battery energy storage. It's not cheap to repurpose, but there's a lot of sunk cost with a gigafactory, so it's happening. The South Korean battery manufacturer's announcements could even be enough to meet domestic demand for battery storage. You might not need Chinese batteries online at all once those are all online. So the facilities from LG, Samsung, and SK, when added to the plans that Tesla has for its own in-house LFP production in Nevada, and other companies like Fluence and EOS establishing their local supply chains, there is for the first time some level of optimism that US production could fully replace relying on Chinese supply within a few years. The source said that non-FEOC compliant foreign entity of concern projects will be about 43% more expensive by losing the standalone storage investment tax credit compared to the FEOC compliant ones. And proving FEOC compliance is going to be really tough. And yes, this is one of the primary drivers of why these companies are looking to build a battery supply chain here in the States, and to ultimately decouple from China. If you're familiar with the Find My feature with iPhone, you may be familiar with a new feature that Tesla just added to a new app update. For the location, you'll now see this arrow that adjusts as you move with your phone, so you can find the direction where your car is located. Plus, it'll tell you exactly how far away the vehicle is, so if you forget where you're parked, which I've certainly done a time or two, this is an awesome built-in feature. We've also been talking the past few weeks about how even Tesla critics and skeptics are being converted by FSD. Well, here's one more very respected auto journalist you can add to the list. This is Jason Camisa talking about Tesla's FSD.
So I programmed the address and boop, boop, it took over. This car drove us the entire way expertly, making lane changes whenever it wanted with nothing dangerous, no jerks, no side to side, anything, beautifully, smoothly. And here's the thing, pulled into the parking lot and then backed itself into a parking spot. And then when we got out of the thing, I plugged in the address of the eye doctor's office, and it took us out of that parking lot onto the main road, made a couple turns into the parking lot of the dentist's office, or the eye doctor's office, which is super narrow, and it pulled right into a parking spot. It was a handicap spot. So it wasn't looking at that. All that kept going through my mind is my mom is 75 years old. I've always thought like her Golf was probably going to be her last gas powered car. That's not going to be her last gas powered car. That's going to be her last human driven car, because tomorrow, if she needed it, I would just buy her, and I'm going to get crucified for saying this, I would buy her a Model 3 and say, Mom, if there are times where you're not, if she needed it, right? If you're not okay to drive, just have it drive you. You need to be in control. You need to be watching. But like, it was that good. And now I have this dissonance because I know it doesn't have radar, and I know it's not going to work in the dark as well as it should, and I know it's not going to work in rain and whatever.
So yeah, he sounds like Jim Farley and RJ Scaringe and all of the others that are short-sighted and not plugged in, that think more sensors is better. And if you pressed him about sensor fusion and those problems, I'm guessing he would not be very articulate, nor would he be able to explain the shortcomings of LiDAR and the fact that it's certainly not a panacea. And guess what, buddy? Tesla's FSD works incredibly well at night, in the fog, in the sun, in the snow, and in the rain. So please do us all a favor and stay in your lane when it comes to autonomy. Here's your proof that LiDAR is not a panacea. Waymos collided in San Francisco, and apparently the authorities had to come to actually manually remove these vehicles. Hyundai's autonomous startup 42 Dot just put out a video of its system after basically 2 years of being in the dark. And interesting timing, right after we reported the CEO chose to step down. In the video, they said this Atria AI, as they call it, is built around a fully end-to-end autonomous driving model. Unlike approaches that depend heavily on HD maps, Atria relies solely on 8 onboard cameras to recognize the environment and make driving decisions. And part of their system is NOA, Navigation on Autopilot functionality for both highways and urban roads. And to be clear, Atria is actually separate from Hyundai's other Level 4 self-driving initiatives that are in partnership with other companies like Motional and Waymo. But the key here is none of this technology is available in consumer vehicles right now. And when it comes to Atria and this camera-only approach, it's not expected to make it to the consumer fleet until late 2027. So it will be one to keep an eye on, but it's still likely years away. Tesla Raj shared a post from Fremont where they were having a toy drive and they were also giving FSD demo drives. As you can see in the video, the line to get one of these demo drives was incredibly long.
All the way. That's 8x, all the way back there. This is all for test drives. People love the Tesla and they want to test drive it.
This user on Reddit said, I was driving my friends home with FSD. All of a sudden, my car swerved aggressively to the left. In the moment, I was embarrassed because I thought my car made a mistake. But in this video, you can see the car next to him violently swerved into his lane just after entering his blind spot. If it wasn't for FSD's quick reaction, our night would have ended horribly. And you saw that car made it almost halfway into his lane, so if it wasn't for FSD, they could have been sideswiped, spun out, maybe rolled, and who knows what else. There's a new Tesla mobile app update going out in preparation for the new holiday release, which is also now rolling out to the customer fleet, but so far it's only for non-FSD builds. But of course, that could change any hour. Tom Zhu shared Tesla Asia's post about Giga Shanghai producing vehicle number 4 million. It happened to be a gold Model Y L. The factory was built in less than a year, and then it took about 33 months to go from 0 to 1 million vehicles. And then from 1 to 2 million, it took 13 months. From 2 to 3, another 13 months. From 3 to 4, 14 months. Which means, yes, Giga Shanghai is roughly 50% of Tesla's global vehicle output. We got the domestic and export breakdown for Giga Shanghai in November. It was 73,145 domestically and 13,555 for export. Which means January through November, the domestic number Giga Shanghai is now down 7.4% year over year, but this month did close the gap a bit from the prior month. And exports are down 10.5%, but again, November helped to close the gap from the month prior. As Elias pointed out, it looks like the new holiday software update in the dashcam viewer, it looks like we'll be able to see when the driver was pressing on the accelerator and or the brake. Tesla Powerwall orders have tripled in Taiwan this year amid growing power supply concerns. It's the usual suspects in Taiwan causing these problems: frequent blackouts, grid failures, and supply shortages. Tesla launched Powerwall in Taiwan in late 2023, so it had all of 2024 and this year to establish its presence, and now many locals have come to trust and rely on it. And the grid crisis there is accelerating the uptake. Joe Tetmeyer said that Cortex 2 in Austin is getting some of the green transformers installed today. The brain of Optimus and to some degree of FSD is being built before our eyes. With Adam Jonas from Morgan Stanley moving on to his embodied AI role, we now have Andrew Percoco taking over his role as a Tesla stock analyst. Andrew downgraded Tesla stock to an equal weight rating, but he bumped the price target up to $425, which is a $15 jump. But he said high expectations for real-world AI have brought the stock closer to fair valuation. While it's well understood Tesla's more than an auto manufacturer, we expect a choppy trading environment for Tesla shares over the next year, as we see downside to estimates while the catalysts for its non-auto businesses appear priced at current levels. Andrew's also saying that Optimus is worth $60 per share of equity value, so you could call that roughly $200 billion. He went on to call FSD a game changer, saying how it will revolutionize the personal driving experience, and it remains to be seen if others can keep pace. Well, I'll tell you right now, Andrew, they will not. And finally, he said their bull case is $860 per share, which could be in play in the next 12 months if Tesla manages through the EV downturn while demonstrating progress in scaling Robotaxi into more geographies without the safety driver, and in winter weather-prone areas, rolling out unsupervised to passenger vehicles and scaling production of Optimus. But you gotta love it, his bear case is $145 a share. On the Tesla shop, you can now gift someone a month of FSD. All you have to do is plug in their name and email address. It will effectively send them a gift card they can use for FSD. For now, it says can only be purchased and redeemed in the US. Tesla is now rolling out a charging passport that apparently is going to help gamify the charging experience a little bit. It'll be available in the app and will give you a yearly summary of your charging experience. It'll have badges for special charging spots you've been to, and it'll show all of the different places you've been. So it looks like it'll be a pretty unique way to see all of your travel throughout the year, and it'll give you some useful data about all of your charging stops. You know how Spotify's Wrapped at the end of the year is a very popular thing? Well, this is going to be very similar to that, but for Tesla charging. Waymo has now crossed 450,000 weekly paid rides, which is almost double the milestone it hit in April when they reported 250,000 paid Robotaxi rides a week in the US. And listen, Waymo is not without its own challenges and problems, but they have been on a run of announcing new expansions both here and abroad. And yes, a lot of it is just for testing, but the race is absolutely on, and it is pretty clear to see why the casual casual observer really believes that Waymo is so far ahead. Tesla stock closed the day at $439.58, down 3.39%, while the NDX was down 0.25%. The volume was 14% below the average. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video. If you did, you can find me on X, linked below. And a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.